Hi, I'm Pastor Tay of the Titus 2 Ministry and PastorTay.com. Welcome to Espresso. It's an interactive Bible study that is like Espresso, strong and smooth. Enjoy the taste. Hey guys, I'm Pastor Tay of the Titus 2 Ministry and PastorTay.com. Welcome. It's Talk Live Tuesday. This is our new program we started last week, and it's about a conversation between you and me about marriage. All kinds of things about marriage, and I want to also welcome the YouTube viewers at our new channel called Espresso. It's named after my favorite drink, espresso being strong and smooth, and so it's about being strong in the Word and smooth in the application. And so welcome YouTube viewers. And so we've got our Facebook Live audience, and we've got our YouTube viewers, and we're going to talk about marriage and take your questions and apply the Word of God. And as you know, we began last week, and we're going to have a 4-week rotation. We started with our first topic, which was communication. That was last week. Today we're doing conflict. Next week we're doing in-laws, and then sex. That is our 4-week rotation: communication, conflict, in-laws, and sex. And so tonight is conflict. Now before we start, I want to introduce you Stuart Martin. And so Stuart, come on over to the camera. And hey everyone, this is Stuart.
Hello again.
Okay, so Stuart is our program manager, and so he's going to keep me honest here as far as time. He's got the clock. He's also fielding your questions and things. And so hey, if you guys are jumping in now, go ahead and say hello, would you? I got some heads up that we have people from different countries and different places. I'm out here in California. Tell me, where are you guys logging in from? So Stuart, if you have people logging in, tell me where they are coming from. If you guys could give me a smiley face or a thumbs up or something. Stuart, anybody jumping in right now?
Well, we have so far.
Can you turn on your mic there?
Well,
Okay. Why is it not working? Technical difficulties. Why is it not working? Oh my goodness.
yeah,
Okay. Forget this. Okay, Stuart. You're just going to have to shout and have a conversation here.
okay, we have Lori Plotner from Tennessee.
Okay.
And
Welcome, Lori.
Sonia Lynn from Maine.
Sonia from Maine. Hi, hi, Sonia.
I think Diane Martin says hi and not Hawaii. But,
Okay.
there's
All right.
Sonia Lynn. Oh, we already said
Yeah, Sonia.
And who else? Oh, Lois Kim is from California.
Okay, Lois. I think she's from
It's
San
a big
Diego.
state. Which part?
Okay, San Diego, I think. And so that's my guess. And so welcome. And so we're still expecting people to jump in, but we are not going to wait, okay? So thank you for those who have showed up on time. And we're just going to get started. And so here's the format. I'm going to get you guys warmed up by introducing the topic and talk for about 5-10 minutes. And I'm going to stop, or Stuart can throw something at me and he can read your questions to me. I don't have your questions in front of me, okay? And so he's going to read the questions, and you guys can interrupt me with your questions and comments. But again, the topic is conflict, all right? So let me just get started. And so Stuart, set the clock for 10 minutes, but I'll probably stop before 10 and take your questions. And so tonight's topic is conflict. Now, just like communication last week, you remember I said that there were like 7 subtopics under communication? Well, it's very much like that with conflict. There's so many things we could discuss under conflict. I'm not going to take the time, but as the weeks unfold, because you know the four topics, once we're done, we're going to rotate. So when we come back to conflict, you're going to realize just how large this topic is. In fact, communication and conflict are the 2 big topics that we are going to cover. But tonight, being our first installment on conflict, we're just going to start off by just mentioning some general observations, getting started here. And I'm just going to start by talking about the different styles of conflict, okay? And you might have seen Don Owsley's post. Hey, is Don there yet? but Don is one of our regular posters on our community. And Don posted a question about the different styles. Like some people really stay away from conflict, and others jump right in and cause all kinds of drama. But anyway, we've got different styles of conflict. We're just warming up to the idea of engaging in conflict tonight. But let's start by reminding ourselves of the first step, okay? The first step in conflict resolution. And the first step you need to know is to look at yourself, okay? So write that down. Look at yourself. Somebody who's in the community, go ahead and write that down. Look at yourself. What I mean is post it, please, because it's important. It's important to examine yourself and understand your heart, your motives, your character, your style, your tendencies. That's what we're talking about. I know a lot of times when it comes to conflict, it's so easy to point a finger and think about your spouse, right? But in the beginning stages, you'll want to think about yourself. So you guys taking notes, write this down, or somebody post this on our scroll. Self-inventory is the beginning of conflict resolution. Let me say that again. Self-inventory is the beginning of conflict resolution. Do you agree with that? Go ahead and write yes in that. Don't write no. Write yes. The self-inventory is the beginning, meaning you got to check yourself. You got to take inventory of yourself. Remember what Jesus said in Matthew chapter 7? Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye, or in this case, your spouse's eye, and pay no attention to the plank that is in your own eye? Remember that? And so the principle here is that you got something much bigger in your own eye. You got much bigger sins in your own life that you got to deal with. And so as we are warming up to this topic of conflict, you got to look at yourself first. I know it's easy to look at your spouse. Take a look at yourself. And so tonight, don't think about your spouse, okay? I know it's tempting to give your spouse the evil eye if you're, watching this together. But look within and start thinking about all the things that you can do to bring peace and resolution. I know we're talking about conflict, but really the full title is conflict resolution, okay? So that's what we're talking about tonight. And so I just want to start as we're warming up to this idea and focus on this very interesting dynamic, okay? I'm just thinking about conflict in general right now and just what causes conflict. I want to just start at the very beginning and say this very familiar phrase, opposites attract. Have you heard that? Go ahead and comment, give me a thumbs up. Tell me if you've heard that before, because it's generally true. Is that true about you? Give me a thumbs up, okay? Did you marry, in other words, somebody who is the opposite of you? Let me know, okay? Not everybody does, but I'm going to say that just about everybody who's watching tonight, over 450 plus people in our community, I'm going to bet you over 400 of them have married somebody who is the very opposite of them, okay? Not everybody, possibly, but more often than not. And that's because there's something attractive about somebody who is different from you, okay? Now, you might not be conscious of that in the beginning stages, but that dynamic, even though you're not thinking about it, is definitely real. In other words, it's there even if you are not conscious of it. So let's do this. I'm curious. Think back to that time when you were dating. You guys remember that time? Remember how much fun you had? How excited you were? Let me ask you, during that dating period, were you aware that you guys were opposites of one another? Go ahead and post. Tell me, were you aware that you guys were opposites of one another? Stuart, what is that? I got 5 minutes? I just got started. Oh, man. Okay. And so tell me, it's possible that you were not aware. I've heard people say, I didn't know, okay, and they're kind of shocked. And so that's also possible, okay, that you weren't aware. I mean, you were so in love, right? And you know what they say, what is that saying about being in love? Love is blind or something like that. So you were so in love, Cupid hit you really hard in the butt, with the arrow. And so maybe you weren't aware. But that's not the point. The point is whether you're aware or not, most likely you were attracted to somebody who was the complete opposite of you. So have you noticed that? Opposites attract. We have all kinds of different styles and different things that are interesting and attractive to each other. So let me ask you, how many of you guys have a cheerleader type of personality? This is just an example. The really vibrant person, he's peppy or she's peppy, vibrant, energetic, so talkative. I'm willing to bet that cheerleader probably married a dead fish. You know what I'm talking about? So how many of you, okay, go ahead and type, how many of you married a dead fish? Are you a dead fish? In other words, no expression on your face. You know what I'm talking about? The eye is just sort of blank and staring. So I'm not just being critical. My point is that we tend to marry somebody who is the opposite of us. So the cheerleader marries the dead fish. And so here's how it plays out. She doesn't want to marry another cheerleader because that's way too many pom-poms in the room. You know what I'm talking about? And that could cause a lot of conflict unto itself. She kind of likes the dead fish. And the reason for that, well, you hear things like this. Someone who's talkative likes to be around someone who's not because they get the opportunity to talk a lot. And so there's the synergy there where one person is talkative and the other is not talkative. So in other words, it works, okay? So some people, they're dating, and whether you realize it or not, you are probably courting somebody who is the very opposite of you. So cheerleader, dead fish, or how about this? She's conservative, but then she ends up marrying somebody who's a risk taker, okay? Have you noticed that? So is that dynamic in your marriage where you're a risk taker, but then your spouse is not? Or how about this? Personality-wise, a person is really serious and uptight, but the other person is really what? The opposite of that, right? Someone who is very easygoing, and so all of these things are at play and going on. So who's got a question, Stuart? Anybody got a question or a comment coming in?
Let's see. Don believes his wife is the cheerleader, and he's the dead, rotten fish.
Dead, rotten fish, okay.
And during his dating period, he didn't think they were opposites, but now he believes they are. And Lori just says they didn't date long enough to figure it out.
Okay, all right. But still, whether you figured it out or not, the point is that these things play out that way. So we're getting some confirmations. Keep on posting. And let me know the situation there that you probably did or were attracted to somebody who is the exact opposite of you. And so opposites attract. That's the point. And so Stuart, stop me anytime if there's another question or comment that rolls in, but I'm just going to keep on talking right here and just keep things rolling here, okay? So stop me anytime. Go ahead and post your comments or questions and let me know how this is playing out in your marriage as well. And so usually in the beginning, here's my point. Usually in the beginning, it works, okay? In the beginning stages, for example, dating, it worked. You guys had a lot of fun. You guys enjoyed, and it's really refreshing to be around somebody who is different from you. So for example, somebody who's shy and kind of reserved really enjoys somebody who is very peppy and alive, and that person's kind of entertaining, okay? So stop me anytime, Stuart, if a question is coming in there, okay? Not yet? Come on, guys. All right, keep on posting. I know I'm just starting to warm up, but what happens is that when you get married, and here's what happens. In the beginning, it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of synergy. Opposites attract. But here's what happens, okay? When you get married, as time passes by, you're still the same, okay? Let's confirm that. But the dynamic changes, okay? So write that down. You actually remain the same, but the dynamic changes. Why? Because you become comfortable with each other. And comfort leads to relaxation. And relaxation leads to dropping your guard. And dropping your guard leads to you just being yourself. And that's not good. Because you in your natural habitat, you're going to cause a lot of trouble. You know what I'm talking about? And so that's the situation here. Because you being yourself with all your, and here's the biblical point, with all your natural inclinations. We're talking about conflict. And conflict, this big topic, involves things like sin. And so with your natural inclinations, now we're talking about sin matters. We're talking about things where you, selfishness and all kinds of things might come out. And so now things have changed. Opposites are no longer attractive. Excuse me. You know, I saw a poster that said opposites attract, then they get married and drive each other crazy. And so you know what I'm talking about? You get married and all that was fun before, it's no longer fun anymore. Now you guys are driving each other crazy. So let me know. Are you doing that right now? I'm thinking you are. Go ahead and post on there if you are driving each other crazy because you guys are just so different from one another. So you didn't do that before when you were dating, but now you are driving each other crazy even though technically you guys haven't changed at all. And so how interesting is this? In fact, let me use the word interesting. What was interesting for you now becomes irritating. And so those two I words, interesting, irritating. Before you were so interested, and now that same thing is so irritating. We're talking about the same things that used to be so much synergy, so much fun, so attractive to you, but now those same things are causing conflict. You got a question, comment?
Yeah, well, here's a comment that Lori brought up, which is probably common for couples. She has difficulty with opposite finances, their approach to it. The husband is cheap, doesn't want to spend a dime. She came from a wealthy family. It's hard to learn not to spend money. It drives them crazy.
Okay, so that's a great example of differing philosophies. And the truth is, we all come from different backgrounds. We all come from different styles. We all have different experiences. And when we come into the marriage, I mean, come on, go ahead and post on there all kinds of experiences of different eating behaviors around the dinner table, the way you grew up. And in this case, Lori's talking about money management, philosophies. And so listen, that's a great example because if you are going to marry somebody, or if you do end up marrying somebody, and you will, that's the opposite of you, that's definitely going to happen, Stuart, where one person is either very generous or loose with the money, and the other person is much more tight, or did she use the word stingy? Let's see, cheap. The idea cheap, that's the word she used. Definitely those are philosophical clashes, and so that's part of the larger perspective here, and so that's definitely what's going on, Lori. So I appreciate that. I know you want a quick answer right now. We're still just warming up. I want to acknowledge that you just gave an awesome example of philosophical differences. I want to acknowledge just how serious that is because that's about how you look at life. That's about how you go about life. Things like that. I've seen engagements break because of philosophical differences like that. Like an accountant marries somebody who is a shopaholic, right? And so now you got these huge philosophical clashes, and so definitely very, very real. But I'm going to save some of the biblical solutions just for a couple minutes later as we're still warming up to this idea. And so, Lori, tell me, in the dating period, maybe it wasn't that big of a deal, or maybe it was, I don't know. But the point is, a lot of times what happens is, in the beginning, it was okay that you were different. But now, it becomes a reason to clash and to fight. You know what I'm talking about? And so here's a principle that somebody post, please, okay? It's called this: love first, hate later. Love first, hate later, okay? And so did you guys get that? It's the idea that in the beginning, you really love it, and it's refreshing that you are with somebody that is just so different from you. But that very thing, okay, underline that, that very thing that you love becomes now the very thing that you hate. Okay, so love first, hate later. So for example, why is like she's so sensitive, right? And in the beginning, love first, hate later. You love the fact that she's sensitive and how she always pays attention to details and cares about all the little things in your life. Love first, hate later. And so now, later, what happens is you hate that. You hate how she's so sensitive and how, she nags and pays attention to all the details of your life, right? And so, what? It's the same thing, right? In the beginning, it was okay, but now it's not. Love first, hate later. That's the principle that we're talking about. So, for example, oh, he's so strong. I love how nothing affects him. And then later, I hate how he's so callous and insensitive and nothing affects him. So you see how that's the same thing? Love first and hate later. What you got, Stuart? You got something there?
Well, here's a big problem. Diane Martin says her husband has a perfect diet, and when we eat out, she wants dessert, and he always comments, "Are you still hungry?" And George has a similar problem. That his wife is an excellent baker and wants sweets every weekend while he tries to stay fit.
Okay. All right. So those are definitely differences right there. But again, I want to just I don't want to talk about food right now per se, but I want to just kind of address a larger situation, and that is we're all coming from different places, all right? Different philosophies and different places and understanding. That's the case with anyone. You want to insert food as an example, someone's going to insert finances, someone's going to insert hygiene, like they want their house to be a certain level of cleanliness and so forth. So whatever example it is, food or hygiene or things, here's the point. We just got to understand we're all coming from different places and different ways of thinking. That's inevitable because you guys are just different. Remember, opposites attract. You marry somebody who's different. And so I guess we're going to have to speed up, right, Stuart? I'm running out of time here, right? And so I'm just going to speed up and get to the point right here. And that is, generally speaking, because you're coming from two different places, here's a general answer. And as time passes by, we're going to unpack it and become more and more specific. The general answer is, as you're coming from two different places, you got to come to a point where there is a general agreement. Doesn't mean you have to agree on everything, okay? This is not about thinking alike. Listen, I've been married 32 years, and still to this day, there is nothing, and I mean nothing, okay, that is the same between my wife and myself, okay? We think differently, but it's about creating kind of a mutual respect and understanding, and then living under the same roof together. That's not easy, okay? That's opening up a whole new can of worms as to how you do that. But remember, today is just the first installment of this. So I'm just giving generalities, and we're just going to have to unpack it. You're coming from two different places, and you got to come to a place where you can live under the same roof without, hurting each other, okay? Breaking each other down. So let me give you 3 points. I'm just going to rapid fire them. We don't have a lot of time. Go ahead and post your comments and your questions about it. I had all this other stuff that I wanted to tell you, but I'm just going to cut to the chase and give you 3 things to help you to merge, because it seems like you understand. You're coming from 2 different places. And I'm going to give you 3 things now, very general, and then please react, and if we don't finish, we'll have to pick it up next time around in the rotation. So I'm going to give you 3 things. Each one of them have the key word work in it, okay? The word work. Because it's something that you have to do. It's going to take work. It's not natural. Don't have that Hollywood sense that is just going to somehow naturally come together or live happily ever after. That's Disney, okay? That's Hollywood. When it comes to a Christian marriage, it's going to take work. So I'm going to give you 3 points. Each one of them will have the key word work inside it. So here's number 1. Work on your appreciation of differences. Work on your appreciation of the differences, okay? So we're just starting with the most basic one, where you're going to have to change your attitude. Some of you have an attitude that your way is the best, that it's got to be your way or the highway, right? Some people just don't know how to compromise. Some people don't know how to, what is that phrase in Ephesians 2? I'm sorry, Philippians 2. Esteem others better than yourself. You got to learn to respect other people who are different from you, okay? So what is that signal there?
Jeannie
Stir.
has a question. She asks, is it a change in dynamics or just a change of expectations? Since I feel conflict occurs because of unmet expectations.
Okay, the first part of it, Jeannie asked the question, is it a change of dynamics? Yes, because in the beginning it was okay when you were dating that you're different. Okay, and Jeannie, I know your husband, John, he is very different from you. Okay, you guys definitely have different styles. I'm sure you enjoy the dating period, but yes, the dynamic has changed. The answer is definitely a yes. And to the second question about unmet expectations, that is definitely real. That comes to us from James chapter 2. I'm quoting all kinds of wrong verses here. Okay, help me. It's James chapter 4, verse 1, where it says, what causes fights and quarrels among you? Don't they come from the desires of your heart? And there, in the original Greek, there's kind of a military battle going on inside your heart. It deals with unmet expectations. Now, the context there is about sinful desires. So I guess there is the nuance here of some of your expectations not being proper. And so definitely, this is opening up a big can of worms here about unmet expectations, but that is definitely at play. Now, this is kind of accelerating the discussion forward, Jeannie, but I appreciate you bringing in the concept of unmet expectations. That does drive conflict. So, hey, everybody, write that down. James chapter 4, verse 1 is the source of one of the reasons why we fight. It is the unmet expectations or the desires that are battling inside our hearts. But again, let me try to get through these points real quick. Number one was work on the appreciation of the differences. Okay, so take a break from the unmet expectations, the sinful desires that are warring inside your heart, and take a moment and plug in Philippians chapter 2. Is it verse 3? Somebody give me the actual verse. Is it 4? It's the idea of esteeming others better than yourself. Take a break from thinking that your way is the best way and learn to appreciate the differences, because it's about perspective. Your way isn't always the best way. Hey, just because you grew up a certain way, your parents lay down a certain precedent in your home, you grew up eating a certain way, or you have a certain philosophy, does that mean that's the only way or the highway? I think we need to take time. We need to take a step back and realize in the bigger scope of things, okay, that God actually allowed for various styles and opinions and convictions in order that we can complement one another and bless one another. So listen, your way isn't the only way. Can you write that down? It's not the only way. There are other ways of doing that, okay? I've got more things to say about that, but I'm going to move on, and Stuart, stop me anytime. How are we doing on time? Oh, you know, we're doing okay. Okay, I think we can run 5 minutes over. Last week we ran about 10 minutes over, but why don't we run about 5 minutes over today? Let me just give you the other points real quick. Number one was, do you guys remember that? Did you write that down? Work on your appreciation of the differences. Because the truth is, not all differences are inherently evil. It's not like your way is the best way and his way is evil, right? It's not like that. All right, number two, I'm going to give you 3, right? And remember the key word for each one is work. So number 2, work on love despite the differences. Work on love despite the differences. So listen, love overrides all things. You know, it says in 1 Peter 4, love covers a multitude of sins, okay? Not necessarily dealing with sinful matters right now per se, but I'm saying love should override many of those differences. Listen, I'm not talking about black and white issues here. You know, black and white things are things that are obviously right or wrong, murder, stealing, or whatever. Some things are just obviously right and wrong. But that's not our conversation tonight. our conversation is more about things that are not so much black and white, but what is that right in the middle? Tell me, Stuart. You got black and white, and if you kind of come in the middle, if you mix the two colors, what do you got?
Purple.
No, not purple. We've got gray, okay? In other words, gray issues. We've got things that are not obviously black and white, but gray issues, meaning we're talking about preferences now. And if we're talking about preferences, we're talking about things that technically are free. Chocolate or vanilla. Now, Diane, maybe for you that's exciting. Your husband Lee, he just eats salads. I don't know. Okay, he's a health nut. I don't know what's going on there. But the point is, there's a level of freedom that we have when we are dealing with gray issues. Okay, we're not talking about murder or stealing or some things that are obviously right or wrong. Talking about many things that are matters of preference. And in those matters, you know what the overriding principle is? Starts with an L. Love. You should love the other person more than your own preferences. And if you love the other person more than your preferences, you should say, you know what? Or in your mind, again, backtrack and say, you know what? My way isn't the only way. And because love overrides it, you can say, you know what? Go ahead and have it your way. Not a big deal. Now, some people might say, well then, Pastor Tay, aren't you being a pushover if you're constantly letting the other person have it their way? That's not how this plays out. If you are mature enough to love the other person and let the other person have it their way, the other person many times will reciprocate. Now, that's a big fancy word, but it's the idea is that they will respond in many ways or many cases by also doing the same thing. And as you go back and forth, there's kind of a mutual respect for one another. You know, Ephesians 5, mutually submit to one another. There has to be a mutual respect. And so again, instead of saying, gotta have it my way, it's gotta be this way, you got to respect one another, okay? And stop saying that your way is the best way, because it's not. We're not talking about black and white issues. We're talking about stuff that are matters of freedom. Now in the future, I'm going to bring this up again, just because we ran out of time today. We're going to talk about Romans 14 and how the Bible does allow for issues of freedom. Stuart, you got anything there? Anybody say anything interesting, or should I go on to the final point?
Well, they agree with you, and like Diane says, she's glad that her husband has a good diet, and yeah, that's about it.
Okay, all right, so far no controversy right here. I don't expect a whole lot of controversy. We didn't have a lot last week. We may not have for a few weeks, just because all of these are like first installments, right? As we get deeper and deeper, I expect a lot more lively discussion. But go ahead and keep posting your comments. Let me know, and we'll see how things play out. We just got a couple more minutes, but I want to give you the final point, okay? Remember I said there's 3, and all 3 of them begin or have the key word work, because it's something you got to do. You guys remember when we started tonight's show, I said that self-inventory is the beginning of conflict resolution. It's about looking at yourself. It's about recognizing that there's a huge piece of wood in your own eye. Jesus' analogy, as opposed to that little speck in your brother's eye or your spouse's eye. And so you're going to work on these things. These are your issues. And so that takes us to point number 3. This is our final point for tonight. And that is, work on your own issues. Work on your own issues in the light of the differences. Work on your own issues, this is point number 3, in the light of the differences. Meaning, the source of the conflict is you. Now, I know that's a general statement. It could be your spouse. You could be totally innocent, but that's not what we're talking about right now. We're talking about this general topic of how both of you fight, okay? And so, Jeannie, are you still there? Let's talk about James chapter 4 again, verse 1. What causes fights and quarrels among you? The intention of that verse is for you to look at yourself. Take a look at your own heart. Take a look at the unmet desires that are inside your heart. In other words, we have an expression in English, look in the mirror, okay? Take a hard look in the mirror You are the one that is participating, instigating, right? Exacerbating, provoking, there's a good word that the Bible uses, okay? And so you don't want to be that type of person. Exasperating, okay? Making the situation much worse. Because the problem is a simple fact that there are going to be differences. It was okay a long time ago, but now they're not okay. It's because you relaxed. And when you relax, all the sinful tendencies come to the surface. And so take a look at yourself. How long have you been married? I'm curious. So can you guys scroll and post on there? Tell me, how many years have you guys been married? 5, 10 years? Who's going to win the contest tonight? Who's been married over 10 years? 15 years? Is Don still there? I think he's going to win tonight. Has Don been married 30 years or more? I've been married 32. Okay? George in Toronto, how many years have you been married? I'm just a baby. Come on. So how many years have you been married? But even George, are you still there? Okay, you've been pursuing Eunice, right? You've been married what? Less than 3 years? But I bet you, tell me, George, yes or no? Okay, I'm just picking on you because you're the director of our community here, and also the fact that you've been married, what, 2 years, and Don's been married, what, 30 years more than you? But here's a situation where Don, over 30 years, and you only 2.5 years? You guys would both be in the same situation, and that's this. Both of you guys, including me and everybody else, we relaxed. We got a little too comfortable. And because we got a little bit too comfortable and started relaxing, okay, that's when the problem started rushing in. You guys remember? When we got married, we made a promise before God and all His people that we were going to love and cherish and uphold our covenantal vow to work on our marriage. But we relaxed. You know, the thrill of the hunt is over. We used to put our best foot forward when we were dating. Whether you've been married 2 years, come on, confess. Or whether you've been married 30 years, you guys need to confess. You guys started relaxing and not trying as hard. Maybe you forgot about the promises you made before God. And when you start relaxing, when I start relaxing, that's when the problems start rushing in. Forget about that romantic Hollywood, Disney movie nonsense about how you live happily ever after. That's just so not true. You're going to have to work at it. Work, right? The 3 points that I gave you. Work on not presenting your way as the only way. Opposites did attract, but now opposites attack. Hey, write that down. Opposites attract, opposites attack. That's the new dynamic that you have right now. And by the grace of God, by the strength that God gives, you need to override that with love and working on your own sinful tendencies, okay? I know, not enough time, right? But that's why we have a rotation. You know we're going to come back to the topic. You know we're going to dig deeper. And so I know it's not entirely satisfactory, but we're going to stop right here. And you can collect all these videos. And I'm going to definitely show you as time passes by that there's rhyme and reason to all of these presentations. We'll put it all together in the coming weeks. And hopefully the big picture will begin to make sense to you. But tonight, we just covered the general reality of opposites attracting and opposites attacking and how you need to work on yourself and what you can do not to impose your preferences and your styles on the other person. But let me just close by saying that we have a website called Titus2ministry.org. Please go check that out. It's still kind of fresh, and so we're working on it and posting resources on there. But please check it out. www.titus2ministry.org. It's singular ministry, not plural, okay? We also have a newsletter, and so George is going to drop the link for that, and that's going to keep us connected and give you updates on all the resources that are coming up. And so we invite you, you know, every Tuesday is Talk Live Tuesday, 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern, and our overseas friends, I know they check in as well. And so I love that you guys are here every Tuesday. And we're going to begin to cover these topics. So next week, remember the rotation, we got 4. We got communication, conflict, in-laws. Wow, that's next week. That's a fun one. And then sex. And so that's the 4-week rotation that we have. And so I want you to know, our prayers are with you. The Titus 2 community is a closed community where you can feel safe and secure, not judged, but it's a place of support and accountability and even counseling. If you need that, reach out to us. If you need any support, prayer, and different things, please let us know, and we'll do that. I feel like I'm forgetting something, Stuart. What was that thing I asked you to remind me of? Was it to the like and subscribe? Yes, to our Espresso channel viewers. Please hit the like button, and please post a comment. Please post your questions and comments there, and there's going to be a slight delay, but we will do our best to respond to your comments there as well. But as you like and as you subscribe, that's going to help us to spread the word and inspire us to get more material out to you. So that's it for today. Talk Live Tuesday is every Tuesday. We'll look forward to talking to you guys next week. Our topic will be in-laws. See you guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us for a devotional drink today. If you love Espresso, click here to subscribe so you know when the next one is ready to enjoy. Visit our website for resources for every chapter of your life. And if you're thirsty for more, click here. See you next time. May God bless your day.